Hi. Wow. I genuinely don't even know how to start this episode because we're back. We're actually back after so many months or more. First of all, before we even get into today's episode, I think I owe you an explanation because I know some of you have probably been wondering, is this girl still holding a podcast show? What's happening? When is she coming back? And to be honest, I plan to start this podcast again around February. I had everything in my head. I was ready. I was like, yes, this is the year. We're going to do it properly. And then my phone got stolen. So obviously, that disrupted the whole plan. But even after I got back my phone, the interest to come back was just not there. I will be honest. It was so weird because I'd wanted to do this for a long time. But all of a sudden, the excitement was just gone. And the longer I stayed away, the harder it became to return. And then people started to ask me questions like, when are you coming back? Are you still doing the podcast? What's really happening? Then I realized that at this point though, I have to show up whether I like it or not. So, hi, I'm back. Let me dust the cobwebs in the room. Life doesn't wait for anybody, right? But I feel like that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to catch up. Trying to figure out what's happened in the last year, trying to look at the things I started, the things that I stopped, the ones I neglected, the ones that I learned, the ones that I thought I even knew. And basically, I'm asking myself, girl, what has actually happened in the course of 365 days? And obviously, I cannot tell you everything that has happened in one episode, but there are a few things that really stood out to me. So let's talk about them. If I am to be honest, I feel like the major part of my year was leadership because Jesus. Okay, I became an executive in church and I don't think I fully understood what I was signing up for. I had already been involved in church before, but there's something different about being given responsibility. I've not been given responsibility before. Yes, but there were less work then and I didn't have to juggle things together like the one that I was given in the fellowship. Yeah, in the course of 1 year. Leadership is just that you are not just responsible for yourself. You have people, you have things to coordinate, you have people who expect communication from you, and you have other executives to work with. You even have people who don't think like you, who don't communicate like you, people who don't do things the way you would do them. And that experience literally exposed so many things about me. And one of the biggest things that it exposed about me was communication. Jesus. Communication. I didn't even realize how bad it was until I started working with people. I realized that something that may feel normal to me can actually affect other people. Especially when you're in a leadership position. You cannot just operate based on what is comfortable to you. People need information. They need to know what's happening. They need to know if you are coming or you're not coming. And sometimes communicating is literally as simple as I won't be available today. That's it. But I think I really, really lacked in that aspect. But there was another thing that I struggled with during leadership. And this one, guys, I still need your advice on it. My pastor used to tell me something whenever I complain about executive matters to her. She would say, Taiwo, allow people to grow on you. And I'm like, okay. But how? I have boundaries, very strong boundaries. And I actually like my boundaries. If I need you and you are my church member, you are my church member. If I'm a classmate, you are my classmate. And if you are my friend, you are my friend. There's a difference. And I think I've always viewed relationships that way. I started to realize that sometimes my boundaries were becoming like walls. And there's a difference. A boundary says, this is what I'm comfortable with. A wall says, you cannot come close enough to know me. And I think sometimes I was doing the second one. There were people I worked with who genuinely wanted to know me. People who wanted to ask about my life. And I'm like, why are you asking me about my life? During one of my appraisals, one of my HODs, she's a friend too, told me that as much as she loved me and appreciated what I do, she would really appreciate if I would allow people to come closer. And I was just smiling because, girl, I don't know. It's hard, but I'm learning, Sha. Maybe I don't have to give everybody access to every part of my life, but I also don't have to completely shut people out. Maybe there is a middle ground, That's something I'm still figuring out. So If you have advice for me on that, please comment because I really need one. How do you maintain healthy boundaries without completely shutting people out? Well, I learned that relationships can actually grow when you intentionally make room for them. And maybe that's part of what my pastor said when she said, allow people to grow on you. But if there's one spiritual lesson that I really want somebody listening to this podcast to take away, especially if you are a Christian and you are involved in church leadership, a worker, please don't let service replace intimacy with God. Because sometimes, especially in church, we can become so busy doing things. You are in this department, you are in that department, there's a meeting, there's a program, there's a prayer meeting, there's another activity. And because you are always in church, everybody looks at you and thinks, wow, this person is really serious with God. But being busy in church is not the same as being intimate with God. And I had to learn that. You can be doing things for God and still neglect spending time with God. And I think we need to be careful about that, because what is the point of serving God if the service is slowly taking the place of your relationship with Him? There needs to be a balance. And I'm not saying don't serve. Please serve. Be committed. Please show up. Do what you're supposed to do. But don't become so consumed by activities that you forget why you're doing them in the first place. I want to remind you, as part of the things I learned, some opinions simply don't belong in your story. And that's something I am learning. Because when you know where you are going, you don't have to explain every single decision you make to everybody. You just need to make sure that you are being responsible, you're communicating properly, and you're not using knowing yourself in quotes as an excuse to avoid growth. Because that one self is another thing. Self-awareness is good though, but sometimes you can know yourself so well that you use your personality as an excuse not to change, which is very bad. That unnecessary phrase of that's just how I am. No. Maybe that's how you are right now, but you can still grow. You can grow. And that's what this whole journey has been all about. I think these are the major part of my life that, yes, I really want to talk about. If there's one thing this past year taught me, it's that growing up is not just about getting older. It's just about becoming more aware of yourself. It's realizing, oh, this is actually a problem, and I decided to work on it. I realized I need to communicate better. I need to be more patient. I need to allow people to come closer, to understand healthy boundaries, to understand accountabilities. I even need to prioritize properly and also balance service with intimacy with God. Building myself too was not exempted, and yet I'm still learning. Sometimes you need to pause, look around, ask yourself, what have you neglected? What needs attention in your life? And then, boom, catch up. As we officially begin my journey through the 20s, I don't want this to be like a podcast where I am just talking. I want us to learn together. So tell me, what's one thing that's, or maybe more than one thing, that you've learned in the past year? Because if I'm learning from my journey and you are learning from yours, then maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle and learn from each other. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. And if you've been one of the people asking, oh, when is she coming back? Well, I'm here. Finally. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, please take care of yourself. Keep God at the center. Emphasis on that. I love you, but God loves you more. Bye.